when developing populations get more money, I mean, and this goes back for as long as nutritionists have studied this issue, the first thing they want is more meat. That's what they want. And so the countries start doing that to enormous detriment to the environment and to the health of the population, because type 2 diabetes starts following in developing countries much, much sooner than it does here. You don't have to gain very much weight if you're someone in a developing country before you start developing symptoms of type 2 diabetes. It just occurs much, much earlier. So again, from the standpoint of the industries, all they want to do is sell more product. That's all they're doing. They're just trying to do what, as a corporation, they're supposed to be doing. If they don't sell more product and they don't grow their profits every quarter, Wall Street gets very annoyed with them. Their CEOs don't get as large bonuses, although I see in the newspapers today that the head of Coca-Cola is getting the largest bonus he's ever gotten, even though Coca-Cola sales are way down. But the business about dairy foods in China is particularly puzzling, because it's not only had an enormous and deleterious impact on China. Look what it's done to New Zealand. New Zealand used to be a country of sheep grazing on pristine green hills and beautiful, clear, pristine water supplies. And now it's all dairy cattle. The sheep are gone. And the dairy cattle are there polluting the streams, ruining the landscape, and producing dairy products for China, a country in which most of the population is lactose intolerant. Now, how all of that is playing out, I have no idea. I haven't seen it in action. But I find it very puzzling. It cannot be good for the population. It's not surprising that rates of type 2 diabetes are skyrocketing there. I would expect that. What concerns me on this very, very question, and it's something that concerns me more and more every year, is how so much of nutrition science now is being funded by industries with a vested interest in how that science comes out. And I'm paying more and more attention to it, and just within the last couple of weeks, I've come across 5 scientific papers published in peer-reviewed journals, each of them sponsored by the industry that stands to gain from having the results of that research come out the way the results came out. So the dairy industry, the Florida orange juice people, the blueberry industry, well, that's a good one. The meat and dairy industries, and the meat industry doesn't do that so much, but the dairy industry is very, very involved in funding research to demonstrate that dairy products are healthy, good for you, and cause no harm. The soda industry is particularly adept at it and has funded literally dozens of studies to show that you can drink as much soda as you want and it doesn't make any difference. And the results of these sponsored studies almost invariably come out in favor of the sponsored interest. What a coincidence. And I don't think it's that the people who are doing these studies are bought in the way that you might. We're going to pay you, we're going to pay you to come out with a result that's the exact result that we want. It's much more complicated than that. It's that the studies aren't controlled very well. They don't really ask very profound questions. The investigators aren't really dealing with what scientists really should be dealing with, which is what other explanation could there be for the results that I'm getting. They're just not very critical. And more of this kind of research is coming out, and I think it puts the entire field at risk of being looked at as if it were completely bought by industry. Yeah, I'm a great believer in regulation. I think it's the only way that we're going to be able to put some constraints on what industry does. The food industry is not going to go away. It's not going to stop making products that are harmful, because some of those products really don't bother anybody if they're consumed in small enough quantities. But they need to have some kind of limit set on what they do so they don't do harm. So, number one, they must stop marketing to children. That just has to be stopped. And it has to be stopped in every single way in which these companies market to children. They're really good at getting around regulations. They're really good at, okay, you won't let us do it this way, we'll do it this way. It has to be stopped. So that's number one. Number two, I think we should have universal school meals. For children in school, those meals should be delicious and there should be enough money to pay for whatever it takes to provide healthy meals for those kids. We need an agricultural policy that is tightly linked to health policy so that the kinds of agricultural production that we have supports public health more than it supports the health of multinational corporations. We need food labels that make sense. We need front of package labels that make it clear which foods are healthy and which foods are not. We need food standards rather than nutrient standards, because nutrient standards are too easy for junk food makers to get around. And lots and lots and lots of limits on marketing, particularly marketing to children. I think the libertarian argument that adults can make their own decisions is hard to argue with, but children, there's no question that they can't. So we need to protect our children and promote the health of our children, and that would be my first sets of goals. The Department of Agriculture standards are nutrient standards, they're not food standards. If they just said, I want kids to have a certain number of servings of fruits and vegetables, a certain number of servings of whatever the protein source is going to be, a certain number of servings of this in every meal, I think that would be just fine. People eat foods, they don't eat nutrients. But that's not how the Department of Agriculture did it. And when the Department of Agriculture did try to put food standards in, the industries that were affected by those standards went right to Congress and had Congress intervene. So that Congress intervened and said the Department of Agriculture is forbidden to make any restrictions on the number of times that potatoes can be served in the school lunch. And they are forbidden to set any limits on the amount of tomato sauce that counts as a vegetable when it goes on pizza. So that was the pizza industry doing that, and the main potato industry doing the other. Same thing in WIC. When the WIC program said we want not to have white potatoes as part of the WIC package because they're already eating enough potatoes, the potato industry went to Congress and Congress intervened and the Department of Agriculture caved. So that's politics. So anytime you want to have standards that are really meaningful, you've got to have agencies that are willing to fight the politics. And we don't have that right now, in part because we have an extremely divided government in which at least part of the government is determined that nothing that the current president does is going to come out all right.